This is the segment that we call Ask the Consultant. And joining me now is the Senior Vice President and the Head of the Government Markets for Empower Retirement, Mr. Brent Neese. Brent, as always, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to turn the tables and ask you questions.
It's not fun, I can tell you.
So it's been roughly 10 years since the Pension Protection Act was passed, and obviously groundbreaking legislation that really paved the way for the industry as we know it today. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution and the adoption of some of the qualified default investment alternative, the auto enrollment, auto escalation since the Pension Protection Act, how you've seen that play out with your clients, and where do you think we go from here?
So I think the PPA, the Pension Protection Act, is a resounding success. And we've seen many plans adopt the auto enrollment and the auto escalation, auto increase features. And where they've been adopted, they've been led to greater success for plan participants. We've also seen the growth in target date assets. All you have to do is look at the Investment Company Institute study on a quarterly basis and see that that's an area that will continue to see growth. And we've seen so many different flavors, as you would expect, with the growth in a particular asset class. We've seen so many flavors of funds being offered. We've got target date funds, we've got managed solutions, we've got custom portfolios. All these things are kind of springing up, and that's to the betterment of the plan sponsor and to the betterment ultimately of the employee. So we would expect that trend to continue. In terms of the Pension Protection Act, I'm actually headed after this, tomorrow, to the Defined Contribution Institutional Investment Association annual forum. And they've actually authored a very interesting paper about auto enrollment and where do you set that auto enrollment number. Traditionally, it's been 3%, but 3% just to get the match really isn't enough. So, and I'm sure you're sympathetic to this, you really have to raise that rate even higher. The other area that I think we need to focus on is getting more plan sponsors to adopt auto escalation, and not just auto escalate at 1%. How about 2 or 3%? I think that's consistent with what many industry thought leaders are saying. The other piece of the Pension Protection Act, and I think we've talked about this off camera, is thinking about how this applies, how these best practices can apply to other markets that may not be covered under ERISA. And I think we have a lot of work to do in that respect. So working with entities that don't sponsor ERISA plans, talking about best practices. They're already doing it, by the way, with investments and governance. Why not apply it to auto escalation and auto increase? Now, there are certainly hurdles. We've got anti-garnishment rules at the state level and the local level that may prevent it. But these are things that, we're talking about security, retirement security of the American people. We're talking about maintaining a level of independence and financial independence for people. And that comes by putting money away. So I think this is a great start, and I'm so excited, and it gives me hope for the future. But I know that there's so much work to be done, and we all have to roll up our sleeves. So kudos to Department of Labor and the industry experts who helped pass, and the Congress for helping to pass the Department of Labor. But there's work to be done. And the last piece I'll say to that is also popping the cap, because we're limited in terms of how much you can auto-enroll people, up to a certain percent, or auto-increase people. I think that needs to be increased, because all surveys tell us, and studies, that you need well above 10% in order to save for your financial future. So again, bullish on the future, bullish on the Pension Protection Act, but maybe now it's time for some modifications after a decade.
Well, you make some great points. Really, getting people into the program is the first goal. Getting them saving at the right rate, of course, is the next. And where we have seen states and other corporate plan sponsors adopt auto enroll, we're seeing stick rates well above 90%, and again, getting them to that 10% will make a big difference in their retirement income. Well, we appreciate your partnership, and I appreciate the opportunity to ask you some questions today, Jeff.
Brent, thank you, and I'm going to have to wipe the sweat off my brow, but it's been fun. Thank you so much.